morning, Rob here. I just wanted to apologize for yesterday's video quality. Halfway through there, it got stuck in a couple spots, and my lips started moving, but my voice wasn't going along with my lips. It's almost like those old Japanese movies, the karate movies and stuff, so it was funny. I was watching it afterwards, and I do apologize. I am still working on my voice and the mic situation. I think the video itself and picture is pretty good, but my voice is still kind of echoey and stuff in this room. So I definitely have to have a mic. Anyway, I'm going to continue on reading here today. It's with the same book, Spirit, Spirits, and Spirituality. It's an awesome book by A.E Knoch, and I'm going through it. I don't know why God is granting me to go through this book for my own benefit as well as yours. So the next chapter is the human spirit. The spirit and the body of a human are distinct entities that may exist apart from each other, while the soul has no existence apart from their combination. Man has both a spirit and a soul. That is, he has life and sensation. So when you look at the soul, a lot of people don't understand what that is, because especially of the teaching out there in religions, they believe a soul is separate from the body in the sense of being aware after death, which is untrue. The immortality of the soul is a lie. The soul is the seat of your sensations. So 5 senses that you have, that's your soul. When that goes into the ground at death, then it is in the unseen, meaning that there's no feeling in the grave. Okay, in studying the spirit of mankind, and indeed all animals in the sacred scrolls, sacred records, especially the Hebrew scriptures, we find it closely associated with the breath. The spirit is the link between breath and life. This is hidden from the reader of the Authorized Version. In speaking of the scope of death by the flood, it reads, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life. And you can find that in Genesis chapter 7, verse 22. It should read, everyone which has the breath of the Spirit of the living in his nostrils. We all know by experience that our life depends on breathing. To expire means death. But we also know from the scriptures that the Spirit is the only source of life. Hence it is easy to see how logical is the order of the terms in this notable phrase. The breath of the Spirit of the living. For the air we breathe, combining with the elements in the body, produces the power or spiritual energy on which life depends. Breath is used in the scriptures as synonymous, in some sense, with spirit, as the presence of one involves the other, and breath is the cause of which the conscious human spirit is the effect. There is a good ground for their association. Let us consider some of the passages in which they appear. First, however, let us note that the arresting fact that the spirit is not mentioned in the account of Adam's creation. Not only that, but he is distinctly said to be formed of the soil from the ground. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. That is the man. It is useless to oppose this, as many do, who insist that man is essentially spirit, without a mere material husk or shell. Such is not God's inspired account. The first man was out of the earth, soilish. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 47, verse 47. Into this human frame God blows the breath of the living. As we are still breathing the breath of the living, we should not miss the meaning of this statement. When God formed Adam, the human organism began to function after the inflation of the lungs. Then, with the studied avoidance of the next link, which is spirit, we are told that the human became a living soul. So it required breath in order for the human to become a living soul, or have sensation, or feeling. The reason for this is not far to seek. Adam is not only man in view, the second man, the last Adam, is so preeminently spiritual that for the sake of contrast, the spirit must be suppressed in recording Adam's creation. As to fact, he must have had a spirit. As to truth, he is merely a living soul made of the soil and the atmosphere, a mere flame fed by the material elements of the earth. We are like him. Only as we come into contact with the Lord from heaven, the life-giving spirit, do our spirits become paramount. There is little danger of being too materialistic as regards the constitution of the human race. The tendency today is to deny the plain assertions of the scriptures. Elohim's words to Job show how in death mankind is but inorganic matter, such as is trodden beneath our feet. Job chapter 24, verse 14 and 15. If he places his heart on him, he will gather to himself his spirit and his breath. All flesh will expire together, and humanity will return to the soil. Dissolution is a chemical process. Organic substance returns to inorganic. It is the reversal after death of the formation of Adam before life. Life also is a chemical process. Using food and the oxygen of the atmosphere, the power generated is the spirit, which unites the body to give life and sensation or soul. As only the oxygen of the atmosphere seems to combine with the substance of the body to carry on its vital functions, we have a strong inclination to make it the breath, which produces spirit. There seems to be a similar analogy between the soil of the ground and the oxygen of the atmosphere. For the Hebrew word soil, not dust, which is used of man, does not include all the surface of the earth, but only such portions of it as has been oxygenated and are able to support plant life. It almost seems that the energy resulting from the intake of oxygen is the spirit of soulish humanity. But such passages as Job 37:10, the breath of Al, or God, gives us ice, seems to show that the word breath itself is not to be restricted to oxygen, even though it seems to be the essential factor in human vitality. The spirit in man may therefore be considered as the vital force resulting from the combination of earth's substances, solid, liquid, and gases, under the creation and sustaining hand of God. The gas may be used as it is, but the solid substances must first be pulverized and aerated into soil. This was used at creation. Since then, it must be further organized into living plants before it can enter into an animal organism and be assimilated by the body as food. In the lungs, the atmosphere comes into contact with the blood. The breath, it seems, undergoes a chemical change, which may be compared with combustion. As the air rushes into a fire and transforms the coal into heat and energy, so the breath combines with the substance of the body to form spirit, the energy which is evident in action, in life, and in intelligence. As my subject is the human spirit, it is far from my purpose to deny that man has a spirit. But I do wish to press the point that man is not a spirit. He is essentially soil, and his spirit is not a separate personality from his flesh, but a force generated by combustion of the breath and the body. I believe that there are spirits without bodies. I know that they can enter and control the human body by overpowering the human spirit. But I can find no warrant for supposing that the human spirit is of this kind. The body of man is not merely a home for the spirit, but an essential factor in the production of his spirit. He can have no human spirit without a body and breath. There are many kinds of spirits. The human spirit is certainly distinct from all others, For is any of the humanity acquainted with that which is human, except the spirit of humanity which is in it? 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. We cannot understand other spirits, and they cannot understand us. Our spirits cannot understand the Spirit of God apart from the reception of His Spirit. Let us not, then, distort our study of the human spirit by confusing it with others. A spirit being has not flesh and bones. Luke 24, verse 39. But a human spirit is dependent on flesh for its existence. For that reason, it is subordinate to the soul, and the flesh is in the old creation. We, of course, rely on the Scriptures alone to prove this position. Yet as each of us has a human spirit of which we are speaking, all of us have seen the truth put into practical test. We cannot create life, but we have seen it destroyed. How do men dispose of the spirit of which life depends? They cannot touch it, but they can stop the breathing, and they can pour out the blood, or destroy the body so that it cannot function. By doing these things, they effectually eliminate the spirit and cause death. Life is dependent on the functioning of the body, especially the lungs. The link between breath and life is the spirit, which vanishes with the breath. It is impossible to perceive a human spirit apart from its two necessary causes, body and breath. Perhaps a parallel in another realm will help to clarify our thoughts. Electricity is in some ways comparable with spirit. We have often compared a human being to an electric lamp, in which the filament is the material body. The electric current is the spirit, and the light is the soul. If the current is stopped, like the soul, goes to the unseen. The filament remains. The question is how to stop the current if we have no switch to turn it off. All we can do is to go to the powerhouse and put out the fire. We can stop the supply of fuel, but it would be far easier to shut all of the air. But it would be far easier to shut out all the air. Sorry about that. We could strangle it or choke it. When the fire is out, there will be no electricity and no more light. Our bodies are miniature power plants for the production of vital energy. The breath is essential to spirit, to life, and to sensation. While we know that the spirit is an immediate cause of life, we cannot determine its presence by any of our senses. We must fall back on the breath, which causes spirit, or on the soul, which is the product. If a person is breathing, he is alive. If he has conscious or sensation or motion, he still lives. When we see an illuminated bulb, we reason that there is an electric current to cause it. Conversely, if the light is gone, the current is absent. When we see a corpse without motion, unresponsive to any sensation, with no respiration, we may be quite sure that the spirit is no more. What becomes of the spirit in death? We may as well ask, what becomes of the electric current in darkness? Both the breath and the spirit are presented to us as a gift from God. The deity, being himself spirit, is in a special sense the God of the spirits of all flesh. And that you can find in Numbers chapter 16, verse 22, and chapter 27, verse 16. Isaiah, reminding us of his creative acts, tells us how he sustained his creatures on the earth. Isaiah chapter 42, verse 5. Who gives breath to the people upon it, and the spirit to those going in it? At death he takes back these gifts. The air we breathe, just as the food we eat is due to his bounty. Having no heed for these in death, they revert to the giver. So it is with the spirit. Okay, I'm going to stop there. The next one is Life by Spirit, and I will continue on with that tomorrow. This is an awesome book, and I pray that all of you are learning and gaining something from it. I thank you so much for listening and supporting this show, And I will say grace and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Happy Tuesday, and we will see you tomorrow, folks.